We are underway at Sepang and Lewis Hamilton getting off to a good start. Felipe Massa trying to get alongside Daniel Ricciardo but staying behind him for the time being. Try and get past Sebastian Vettel going into the final corner, and Daniel Ricciardo ports his Red Bull car into third position. Sebastian making a mistake. Ricciardo going wide, allowing Kimi Raikkonen to go through with the DRS as well. Sebastian Vettel even fancying his chances going into the final corner. And Vettel does make a move around the inside, not enough though. Ricciardo holds off just, and I think Daniel Ricciardo must have failed to see the Williams, and he is spun round, and Sebastian Vettel is just exiting the pits, and that is a disaster. He is rejoined well quite a way ahead of us, and the surprise of all, Felipe Massa in the Williams has not only got ahead of us but got ahead of Vettel as well, as we go to make a move on Sebastian Vettel, moving into 6th position. Ricciardo has made the call to pit for the intermediate tyres, and this could be crucial in the race because Bottas goes down the inside again. This is on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Ricciardo holding on around the inside line, and they've both gone into the pits. He has driven brilliantly this weekend in Malaysia as he crosses the line to secure that 4th position, an absolute mile ahead of the rest of the field. Hey, what's up? It is Dan or DMath96 here, and welcome back to our Daniel Ricciardo career mode for a wet Friday's practice here at the Chinese Grand Prix, round 3 of the World Championship. Daniel Ricciardo enters this weekend tied for 2nd place in the championship after a brilliant drive to 4th last time out in Malaysia. Nico Rosberg won once again, extending his lead to 20 points over Daniel Ricciardo, who is equal on points with Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton this weekend at Shanghai. However, Red Bull could have the advantage this weekend, as this track seems to suit them better than what Malaysia did, as it has a lot more corners than straights. However, that back straight will be a big struggle for Red Bull due to their lack of straight line speed thanks to their Renault engine. Last year this race was exciting and controversial. At the start of the race, Sebastian Vettel got off to a fantastic launch, overtaking the 2 Mercedes drivers going into turn 1, and then getting into a brilliant battle with Valtteri Bottas before the first round of pit stops. After the pit stops, Valtteri lost touch of Sebastian, and then Lewis Hamilton came back into the mix, first overtaking the Finn, and then Sebastian going into the hairpin before starting to run away with the race. But the rain arrived on lap 22, and just like Malaysia, it caused confusion to the rest of the field, and after 5 laps on the intermediate tyres, Sebastian Vettel would get extremely lucky from Lewis Hamilton, who decided to make his final pit stop for wet tyres on the final lap of the race, therefore handing Sebastian Vettel the victory. He would eventually go on to win by 5 seconds ahead of the Brits, and after looking good for a podium, Valtteri Bottas unfortunately lost his chance of a podium finish as Nico Rosberg managed to pass the Finn, who was being held up by one of the Toro Rosso drivers. So can Lewis Hamilton go one better after controversially losing out last year? Before we find out, it's time to turn our attentions to the qualifying report. After winning the first 2 races, Nico Rosberg looks to be the favourite for this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix as the light went green, signalling the start of qualifying. Felipe Massa starts in the bottom 5 for the 3rd consecutive time, as teammate Marcus Ericsson qualifies in a solid 12th. It was another poor session for Fernando Alonso, as he once again struggled to match his teammate with 17th place. Lotus again had a poor session, with Maldonado 13th and Grosjean 15th. Carlos Sainz was so close on making the top 10, whilst teammate Max Verstappen struggled to 16th. Force India lock out the back of the top 10, with Perez getting the better of teammate Hulkenberg. It was another 5th place start for Daniel Ricciardo, the Australian putting himself in good contention for a podium once again. Felipe Massa got the better over teammate Valtteri Bottas, with the Brazilian managing a top 4 start. Despite winning the first 2 races, Nico Rosberg will have some work to do in the race to keep up his form, as he starts all the way down in 7th. However, neither silver arrow couldn't stop the prancing horse of Sebastian Vettel, as the defending world champion takes his second pole position of the season. Sebastian Vettel becomes the first repeat pole sitter of the new season, with Lewis Hamilton alongside him in second place. Kimi Räikkönen in his Ferrari starts third, with former teammate Felipe Massa behind in fourth. It's a strong showing for Daniel Ricciardo yet again in fifth position, alongside for Williams' Valtteri Bottas, whilst Nico Rosberg has some work to do down in seventh place. Force India's Sergio Perez and Nico Hülkenberg lock out row 5 in a decent session for the team, whilst Carlos Sainz and Toro Rosso starts just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Solid qualifying for Pastor Maldonado and Jenson Button in 13th and 14th respectively, whilst other Lotus driver Romain Grosjean continues his disappointing season in 15th. Another dreadful qualifying for Fernando Alonso as he starts in the bottom 4 for the third consecutive time, and this time Roberto Merri beats Will Stevens on the back row for this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. So just like Malaysia last time out, it's fifth once again for Daniel Ricciardo, putting him in good position to take another podium here for the Chinese Grand Prix. The rain has gone from Friday's practice session, and onto the race. Sebastian Vettel starts on pole position. Will he be able to convert it into a win, which he failed to do in Australia? It's going to be one race to look out for. It's surely going to be an interesting one. There is dark skies as well, so the rain could come back. That was gone from Friday, but as the lights illuminate here at the Chinese Grand Prix, we are underway here, and it's a good start for Sebastian Vettel. But look at Nico Rosberg from 7th position trying to get in between Daniel Ricciardo. Danny Kvyat having a good start as well, but Rosberg overtaking Ricciardo. Ricciardo trying to hold him around the outside. Lewis Hamilton has appeared to have Sebastian Vettel going into turn 1, and yes, Hamilton leads going out of turn 1. Massa having go Vettel, with Ricciardo trying to hold on from Valtteri Bottas, and Ricciardo exits the first few corners in 5th position. But now looking ahead, you can see Felipe Massa side by side with Sebastian Vettel. Could the Williams driver have a look going into the hairpin as Hamilton pulls away from the rest of the field? Vettel just holds on around the outside, and Ricciardo had a look at Kimi Räikkönen, I believe, there, but Hamilton pulling away from the rest of the field. Massa still battling with Sebastian Vettel as Ricciardo tries to hold off Valtteri Bottas going into the twisty part of the track, and this is where the Red Bull seems to gain a lot of speed. As you can see, he's all over the back of Kimi Räikkönen. He's going to have to try and go the long way. He goes a little bit wide on the outside line, but he still holds on and just about gets ahead of Kimi Räikkönen for 4th position. A good move for Daniel Ricciardo, moving up into 4th position, or will it? Because Kimi Räikkönen, with that superior straight line speed, is trying to make him move, going down towards the hairpin. Ricciardo desperately trying to hold him around the outside. Meanwhile, just ahead, Vettel and Massa having a brilliant scrap as Ricciardo just about keeps 4th position ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Now starting the second lap of the race, and Ricciardo using the slipstream to try and close in on Sebastian Vettel, who's just lost a place to Felipe Massa in the Williams, as Ricciardo tries to make a move around the outside going into turn 2 and turn 3. But no, he just stays behind Sebastian Vettel. But now moving on to the next lap, Lewis Hamilton says the fastest lap, as Daniel seems to have a better run on Sebastian. He's going to try again at the same corner around the outside of the Ferrari driver, now switching to the inside, and Ricciardo makes the move stick on his former teammate, moving the Red Bull up into 3rd position. And I believe Kimi Räikkönen tried to have a go at Sebastian there, as Ricciardo now sets for charge towards Felipe Massa. As you can see on the screen going on the straight, rain is starting to fall, so this could be crucial for the race outcome. Sebastian Vettel used the DRS to get past Daniel Ricciardo going down towards the hairpin, but Ricciardo will try to hold on with the braking around the outside. No, he just can't. Vettel gets the battle line around the inside line, and as Ricciardo just defends from Kimi Räikkönen behind, he's got to be careful of him. There is a train of cars forming behind him as well, so he's got to be careful of that. He doesn't want to make a mistake as he goes a little bit wide on the exit, but he will have the DRS to catch up to Sebastian going into turn 1, as this is where the Red Bull seems to have the pace, as we saw that brilliant overtake that he made, going a little bit wide, but a little bit contact with Sebastian as he goes around the inside line of the German, and he takes back 3rd position going into turn 2, as Lewis Hamilton continues to lead the Chinese Grand Prix. And as you can see, Felipe Massa slowly starting to pull away from us as we are just about to go onto the big straight now, and you can see the 2 Ferraris closing in to Daniel Ricciardo. Vettel trying to make a move around the outside, Ricciardo just about defending, almost going wide on the exit, and Ricciardo holds on, moving on to lap 5. You can see the rain on your screen slowly starting to get a little bit heavier now. Ricciardo outbraking himself, allowing Kimi Räikkönen to go through. I forgot to mention that Sebastian Vettel did pit at the end of the previous lap, as we are going to be making a pit stop here. For what tyres? We're going to be fitting the intermediate tyres this lap, so it's going to be a crucial move for Daniel Ricciardo. And is it the right lap to pit? for the wet tyres, as Kimi Räikkönen is still just ahead of us. We go on to lap 5 as both of us are going to pits on the same lap. And, well, Daniel Ricciardo hitting the back of Kimi Räikkönen, lucky not to sustain any damage to the front of that Red Bull cars. We both go into the pits, followed by one of the Williams cars as well. I believe that is Valtteri Bottas, as we just pit now for the intermediate tyres. But crucially, what tyres will Kimi Räikkönen and Valtteri Bottas be on? And it looks like Kimi Räikkönen's going to get held up from the Force India going into the pits, as Daniel Ricciardo emerges ahead of Valtteri Bottas as we go at the pits in 15th, no, it will be 16th position. Sebastian Vettel just getting ahead, and obviously he pitted on the lap before. I believe he's still on the dry tyres, so it's a very interesting call here for Sebastian Vettel. It means he's going to have to make an extra stop. So Daniel Ricciardo has a good chance of easily getting ahead of Sebastian Vettel as he gets past him and Roberto Merri going into the same corner. And Daniel Ricciardo now moves into what I think is second position for the time being. Lewis Hamilton still out miles ahead, but Sebastian Vettel still getting the superior speed on those option tyres, so maybe it's the wrong decision for intermediates yet. I'm still not sure, guys. But Ricciardo outbraking himself slightly, hitting the back of Sebastian Vettel. As we're about to start the 7th lap here at the Chinese Grand Prix, it's Sebastian Vettel in effective 3rd position, as Felipe Massa, I believe, is just exiting the pit, so there could be a chance that we could jump him. I doubt it though, as you can see that dot on the minimap is Felipe Massa just exiting the pits, and he will take what will be 2nd position once everyone else pits. But as you can see, look at the traction that Ricciardo and Vettel are getting around that corner, and we are closing in on the back of the Williams driver. And on the straight, I think the Ferrari will have a straight line speed, but we'll have a better speed going into the corners as we pass Sebastian Vettel for effectively 3rd position. And now we set the chance to Felipe Massa, who I still believe is on the dry tyres, as we start lap 8 of the Grand Prix. And Felipe Massa, there is smoke coming from the back of our Williams, and that is crucial. He is out of the Chinese Grand Prix due to an engine failure. That puts us into effectively 2nd place, and we could be on a good chance to get a 2nd place position like we did in the Australian Grand Prix, as we are closing on the back of Felipe Massa, who I believe hasn't pitted yet. He's still on the option tyres, and it looks like the rain is getting heavier, so I think the intermediates are now the right tyre to be on, as we close in on the back of Pastor Maldonado in the Lotus, another driver who is yet to pit. I believe at this point Carlos Sainz is in the lead of this Grand Prix. Of course, he hasn't pitted yet, and I also believe that Lewis Hamilton, I think, is still on the dry tyres, so this could be crucial for the race outcome as we go past Pastor Maldonado going into the hairpin, running slightly wide on the exit, but staying ahead of the Lotus driver, as I believe he is going into the pits at the end of this lap. And there's a few drivers going into the pits. That is Carlos Sainz, must be one of them. And I believe the other one is Lewis Hamilton, who is in the lead of his Grand Prix. He is now going into the pits for, I believe, is the intermediate tyres. We go past the pit straight into 1st position, and this now puts Daniel Ricciardo in good contention for the race win here at the Chinese Grand Prix. And I certainly didn't think this would happen. I didn't think that we'd be in contention for the win, especially pitting so early as we start lap 12. Not a lot happens from the previous few laps, but because we pitted so early on in the race and Lewis Hamilton just pitted a few laps ago, he is now charging at us like mad now. As you can see, he's only 8 seconds behind him. I think we need to be thinking about pitting soon, as we do on lap 15, and Lewis Hamilton follows us in. And I was told from the race engineer that the dry weather tyres seem to be the right tyres to be on. So we are going to be making a crucial stop for the option tyres, and I believe that is what Lewis Hamilton is doing as well. Yeah, you can see the yellow marked tyres on. He's crucially managed to jump us in the pit lane. That is a huge disaster, as we now drop down to 2nd position. But we can still win this race if we just keep up with Lewis Hamilton, who, as we know, has the more superior car in that Mercedes. So we just need to push like hell if we want any chance of taking our first victory of the season. As Lewis Hamilton runs slightly wide, we managed to take the inside line, and straight away we move into the lead of the Grand Prix. But there's still 12 laps remaining, and I think another pit stop left, so anything can happen still in this Chinese Grand Prix, as we now go on to the DRS straight, where the Mercedes will have the superior straight line speed. As you can see, Lewis Hamilton also has DRS wide open and moves back into 1st position of the Chinese Grand Prix. And this is going to be one exciting battle towards the end. Moving on to the cinematic cameras, and Ricciardo running slightly wide on the exit, but he'll have the DRS going on to the start-finish straight. So he really needs to push now. He needs to get a good line out of his final corner, which he does so. And Lewis Hamilton is right there now. Ricciardo just needs a good run with the DRS and the slipstream if he wants any chance of taking the lead back of this Grand Prix. It looks like he's going to get it. He's moving to the inside line. He takes the lead back. Going into turn 1, they're still side by side. Lewis Hamilton forced wide, and Ricciardo just takes the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix yet again on lap 17. Sebastian Vettel in 3rd position. I think he's slowly catching up, but I don't think it's going to matter too much as Lewis Hamilton once again used that DRS to good perfection to take the lead back of the Grand Prix. We're on optimal fuel level now, so we need to be careful of our fuel as well if we still want to win this race, as Lewis Hamilton now slowly starting to pull away. But we have the DRS and the slipstream yet again. Going to turn 1, we're going to try another move, but no, Lewis Hamilton closes the door this time, and it seems to me now that Lewis Hamilton could have a better pace as we start lap 18 of the Chinese Grand Prix. He tries to go around the outside. Sebastian Vettel in the meantime sets the fastest lap, shortly followed by Nico Rosberg. Both of them will be catching up as Lewis Hamilton just manages to hold on. And could this race victory be out? The question now, it's still not over yet. We are still close behind Lewis Hamilton. We really need a good run going into the second set. A little bit of contact at the back of Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo just braking a little bit too late there. But now moving on as we start the next lap of the Grand Prix, lap 19, and Lewis Hamilton unfortunately is starting to pull away. He's just set the fast lap of the race, and we can do nothing even with the DRS wide open. The track has completely dried out. Dry tyres are now the right tyres to be on, as we do gain a little bit of time going into the first few corners, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And even we've got to be careful of Sebastian Vettel and Nico Rosberg, who are slowly catching up as well. On lap 22 we pit for another set of the option tyres. The other ones were completely dead, but it really didn't matter. Lewis Hamilton is just too far ahead now, and it looks like the second place is going to be a position that we are going to finish in as we exit the pit lane ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who still needs to make his final pit stop. But now moving on to the final lap, and after 6 laps of action that were about as interesting as the new qualifying format for this year's Formula 1 season. We now move on to the final corner of the Chinese Grand Prix to see Lewis Hamilton cross the start-finish line and take his first victory of the season, dominating the race after the final pit stops, so really closing on his teammate Nico Rosberg in the Championship Challenge. But it's another fantastic performance for Daniel Ricciardo as he crosses the start-finish line to take his second podium finish with 2nd place. So once again, a brilliant drive for Daniel Ricciardo to take 2nd place, but unfortunately it would have been the victory if he just pushed a little bit harder whilst catching up to Lewis Hamilton, and therefore he loses out to the Mercedes driver who takes his first victory of the season. Nico Rosberg follows behind in 3rd with Sebastian Vettel 4th, but an excellent result for Carlos Sainz, who held on to 5th position despite being in 3rd for a long time for this Grand Prix. Now you may notice that Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas both got penalties, and this was because of this incident you will see now with Roberto Merri. I'm sorry for the poor footage quality, but Roberto Merri he had a tyre puncture and just caused all sort of chaos with I think that was Bottas there, and causing one of the Ferrari drivers to spin. And I don't know how Merri didn't get a penalty for this, or even a disqualification. You can see Kimi Räikkönen just spinning off the track completely, Bottas nearly going into a spin, and Merri causing all sorts of chaos there. As we now move on to the Drivers' Championship standings, Lewis Hamilton now moves ahead of Daniel Ricciardo to 2nd position as Rosberg still leads, but his lead has been reduced to 10 points from Lewis Hamilton and 17 points from Daniel Ricciardo. Sebastian Vettel moves ahead of his teammate Kimi Räikkönen as Danny Kvyat moves into 6th ahead of Valtteri Bottas in the Williams. Now on to the Constructors' Championship, and Mercedes extend their lead to 56 points ahead of RedBull in 2nd, who overtake Ferrari. However, they only lead them by 1 point, with Williams in 4th and Toro Rosso in 5th, who have overtaken a whole lot of teams thanks to Carlos Sainz's 5th place finish. But now I hope you guys enjoyed today's Chinese Grand Prix. Now it's time to move on to the podium. So after 3 rounds we finally have our 2nd race winner of the new season, and it's Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes. Will we now see a brilliant battle between the 2 Mercedes drivers for the championship this season? What can this man do, who finished 2nd place in the Chinese Grand Prix? I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have, please leave a like, comment down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time guys, it's been DMan96. I'll catch you guys next time for the Bahrain Grand Prix.